Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Two Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half the work week officially in the rearview mirror, working towards the weekend. Appreciate you hanging out with us on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got some Saints chalk that we'll get to at 2:15. I want to talk about Jaden Daniels' return to South Louisiana as he and the Commanders will invade the Superdome coming up on Sunday. Plus, who are the Saints going to start at quarterback in that game? We'll discuss all that coming up in 15 minutes. Time to talk some hoops. Matthew Brune, part of the Bengal Tiger over there on 3, joins us every single Wednesday at the top of hour number 2, does so now. Matthew, how are we doing?
Hey, Hunt, doing great. No basketball games during the week. This week is a nice reprieve for me.
Yeah, it's there's finals, so a lot of recruiting going on. I know Kim Mulkey was visiting one of their signees earlier this week. You wrote about that. Both teams will kind of be geared toward this coming weekend as they get back into it before Christmas break cranks up. So I think that's a good time for us right now. I just want to get some general thoughts on the SEC through 6 weeks of college basketball because I'm floored. I can't believe I keep checking the scores each and every day, it seems like, and the SEC just continues to win. I ran the numbers. It's a 16-team league, and they've lost 19 games total. That seems almost impossible, but that's where we are. I know you watch a ton of hoops. What's your impression been of the SEC thus far?
Yeah, and 3 of those losses are South Carolina, who's the bottom team right now, but still like 66 in KenPom, one of the metric systems. So that's the bottom of the SEC is 66 in the country. And I watched Arkansas last night beat Michigan, one of the best teams in the Big Ten. A&M beat Texas Tech, a contender in the Big 12. It's every single night, like you said. They just continue to beat top teams. And Auburn lost on the road at Duke, but it was a very competitive game. Kentucky beat Gonzaga in overtime in Seattle. As far as the analytics, the metrics go, this is the best conference of this century right now. And I went back and looked at it, the 2004 ACC with Duke and J.J. Redick, and those teams only had 9 teams in the conference. And this is a 16-team conference that has just top to bottom incredible. LSU's been awesome to start the year, and they're still in the bottom tier somehow. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Is there a team or two that you like best in the SEC that you've seen?
It's easy, but Auburn is by far my favorite. The best team that I've watched so far. Janai Brune is incredible. They have a ton of guards. That's the best team in the country for my money. And then Tennessee continues to roll. They're 9-0. They're number 1 in the AP poll. Alabama will always shoot a bunch of threes and space you out and just be one of the best offenses in the country. So, and Kentucky with Mark Pope has been has been a surprise to me. They have enough talent, and Pope's a really good coach, having that system in there. So that's the kind of the top tier of the SEC for me.
Tennessee will guard you now. They guarded Miami in a big way last night, kind of locked them up for 2 halves of that game. So I saw earlier you were writing about LSU and how they've done a good job and they've beaten some teams in high major conferences, but maybe those teams haven't performed exceptionally well, which doesn't reflect great in LSU's metrics. How do you think LSU sits right now as far as the metrics go? Not on the floor, but it's a beauty pageant at a certain point. What does that look like right now for LSU?
Yeah, it's a great point. It's certainly a beauty pageant, and it's subjective when you get to March in terms of the eyes of the committee and who they put in the tournament. There's great teams that get left out every year, and there's snubs and whatnot. So you just have to accumulate as many wins as you can, obviously. And this SMU game on Saturday is big, which we'll talk about, but they do have the win over Kansas State and UCF and now Florida State. Those are 3 good wins. They're not, quad 1 wins, as some would hope. Kansas State's dropped off a little bit. UCF and Florida State are good, not great teams. So, they have good wins to this point. It's going to take, a win over SMU on the road, which looks like it'll be a quad one win. And then you have, I think it's 13 quad one opportunities in the SEC right now. So you'll have plenty of opportunities in conference, but you definitely want to get these ones out of conference.
What do you know about the scheduling of this game? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but I'm admitting I don't know. Is this a true road game? Is this a neutral site game? I know it's in Frisco. How does it qualify? Do you know?
Yeah, it's a neutral game, but the way I understand is that it's a semi-road game since it is in Frisco.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly how that changes the quad one or quad two implications to it, but it is a neutral site game technically, I believe. And this came about. I think it's a compete for a cause classic. So they have SMU and LSU here playing, and then next year they'll play in New Orleans. SMU and LSU will.
Cool. All right, let's talk a little bit about that. Andy Enfield there at SMU. What do you know about the Mustangs and what LSU will need to do on a Saturday to get a win? Sure.
Andy Enfield comes from USC. It was a pretty big poach from SMU to get him from USC, where he had a good amount of success. I mean, he put in a lot of NBA players. It seemed like he had one every year pretty much that was able to go to the pros. And I'm not just talking about, Bronny James, but he's got a good team already. I think Boobie Miller, LSU played him twice, I think, at Wake Forest. Their lead guard, he's kind of a smaller guard, but can really fill it up. So that's one that LSU fans may remember when they see him. And then they got a lot of transfers in there, clearly with a year one coach. That's what you would expect it to be revamped in that way. But they're a top 30 offense in the country. They play pretty fast, and they're going to look to kind of push the pace there. So it's going to be an open game. I think LSU, in that story you mentioned earlier, I talking to some of the coaches and people around the team, they really want to play faster with Jalen Reed gone. That's kind of the one thing they're gonna have to turn up the tempo because Jalen Reed is such a kind of half court presence. They're gonna have to open it up and get Corey Chess and them out running.
What'd you make of LSU's new look front court back on Sunday?
I loved it. I think the two games we've seen now of Corey Chess and Damian Collins in the front court, they've been excellent for Florida State and now Florida Gulf Coast. You have games where they've dominated on the interior defensively. They've been good on the glass. As a team, the rebounding is still a concern, which isn't all on them, but just the way that they're athletically able to compete and they're able to really guard, I think, is huge for this team. And, the transition opportunities with Corey Chess running and him just kind of playing with his hair on fire is something this team needs.
I want to ask you about Curtis Givens. He's a guy I expect to see a good amount in the games after SMU, before SEC play, because I don't know how much they're going to get him on the floor in SEC play. What have you made of his development and his performance in his freshman season?
I think he's been good. I think he's been about what I expected him to be. He is a bigger guard, 6'3", 6'4", that as a freshman physically looks the part, but I think he still has, some areas of improvement in terms of playmaking. His turnover percentage is too high right now. He's, I think, needs the game to slow down for him in a bit. Early on, I think they hoped maybe he could put some pressure on Jordan Sears because Sears is, a 6-foot guard. You have kind of the contrast there, but Sears has played really well. You're not going to want to take him off. And then Cam Carter at the 2 has been really good. So you have your backcourt set, and whenever you do substitute in, I mean, they've put, whether it's Victorious Miller in there and kind of rotated guys around in the backcourt. So I think Givens is a good player. I think he'll definitely be probably the starter next year. But at this moment, maybe they get him in for 5-6 minutes a game right now.
He's Matthew Brune. He's on 3, the Bengal Tiger. He and Shea Dixon do a heck of a job over there. Matthew's covering all the teams, especially both basketball teams this time of year, and does an awesome job. Highly suggest y'all go check that out. He's with us every single Wednesday at 2 o'clock as well. Matthew, thanks for the time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Anytime.
It's going to be a big one for LSU on Saturday. I continue to reiterate this. I'll stop after this game on Saturday because the next games that are leading up to conference play shouldn't be a big issue for LSU. You've got Stetson coming in. You got Mississippi Valley State. Games that LSU should handle relatively easily, but this is your last opportunity to get a fairly quality win, and you've got to do that a lot because they're just going to be tough to find wins in January and February. I think there are probably a lot of you that listen to me talk about this and say, man, you're just so negative, like just let them play the game. And I get that. Like I understand, I fully understand how it comes off that way, but I've watched these teams in the SEC play, and I certainly watch every bounce of the ball that LSU dribbles. And it feels to me like right now they're very much toward the bottom in terms of talent. If I'm wrong about that, I'll be thrilled, and I'll come on here and I'll tell you about how stupid I was. It's my opinion, and that's kind of why I'm here. So I feel like LSU's going to be scrapping and clawing for every SEC win that they can muster, and you need to give yourself a little bit of a runway here with what you do in the non-conference. If they can find a way to get to conference play with one loss, man, I would feel really good about that. I think you would be a better than 50% chance to make the NCAA tournament if you could get to conference play with just one loss. You turn that second one up. That one indicates that loss is, one, bad on your resume, and two, let me rephrase, that loss is not good on your resume. I don't think that losing to SMU and Frisco is bad. It's just not good. And then you've got to probably make that up somewhere in the SEC, because I personally think right now that LSU is likely, the ceiling to me right now looks like a bubble team. That's what it looks like to me. So when you start to play in those margins, it gets tight. And so you need to go ahead and take care of your business. They need to try to do that against SMU. As Matthew mentioned, one of the better offensive teams in the country. And it's going to be an up and down affair for sure. So I'm curious to watch that one and see if LSU can keep up. LSU likes to play at that pace. I know that. They did a great job playing against one of the slowest teams in the country on Sunday and getting it going up and down and getting to 80 points. So should be a track meet there against the Ponies in Frisco. All right, we step aside. We'll come back, talk about Saints. What are they going to do at quarterback? What quarterback's coming in to the Dome? We'll talk about that coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Highly, highly, highly recommend you check out OneBathAndClosets.com. You can get a feel for some of the great work that David and his team do. If you're having trouble just kind of picturing what a bathroom renovation might look like, this is a great place for you to go check it out, OneBathAndClosets.com. If you've got one of those big jacuzzi-style tubs that they put in a lot in the 90s and you don't really want to use that anymore and it's just taking up a lot of space, take it out. Put a shower. There's plenty of room there for a gorgeous glass walk-in shower. It changes the aesthetic of your bathroom, changes the functionality of your bathroom. If you don't take baths, well, you got a bathtub. You don't need one. Go ahead and put the shower in there. David Duvall and his team are happy to do it. And look, if you take advantage of the opportunities there in terms of financing, you could pay 0% on 18 months worth of payments, just if you qualify. It's One Bath and Closets. You can find them online where you can find those pictures of their great work, and you can start the process with that free consultation at OneBathAndClosets.com.
Welcome back to the Hunt Palmer Show. Here's your host, Hunt, the uniform czar, Palmer. Which uniform do you hate now?
Every work week is moving along quite nicely. Wednesday edition, we're officially working towards the weekend here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Thanks to Brune for talking a little hoops there with us. Let's change gears. Let's talk some Saints as they welcome the Washington Commanders into the Dome coming up on Sunday. And, of course, with said Washington Commanders comes their quarterback, Jaden Daniels. And I think there was some contention in South Louisiana a couple of years ago when Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase arrived in New Orleans to play in that game. And there were a lot of Saints fans who were bristling at LSU fans, whether they were an LSU fan or not, but bristling at LSU fans who potentially might side with Joe and Jamar and the Bengals over the homestanding New Orleans Saints. And I get that. Look, it happened in this room, in this chair. I kind of trolled Matt a little bit. I wore my Bengals shirt prior to that game. And Matt did not like it very much. He threw all of my stuff on the ground and had some colorful things to say to me as I exited the room. And that's okay to have some passion about your team and to feel a little bit defensive. There are far more LSU fans who care deeply about the Saints and wanted the Saints to win that game than there are folks like me who are just diehard LSU folks who have not lived and breathed with the New Orleans Saints for our entire lives. There aren't that many of us. So I think that any animus that may have been there for that Bengals game, and I'm not saying I wore a orange Bengals shirt on Sunday and was yelling and screaming at the TV. I wasn't. I watched that game, and it was a tough inning for the Saints, and Joe hit Jamar for that touchdown to win it. But I want the Saints to win as well. But I don't think that the build up to that game, Joe and Jamar coming back off the Super Bowl berth, I don't feel that this time around with Jaden Daniels coming in. Jaden has played great. Jaden's had a better rookie year than Joe had. Now, Joe got hurt in his rookie year, but Jaden has had a better rookie year. You're talking about a guy in Jaden Daniels right now who is fourth in the NFL in completion percentage among qualified starters with a 70% completion percentage. He's also ninth in the NFL in yards per attempt. He's running the football very, very well. He had a rushing touchdown in the game against the Titans. He had a rushing touchdown in the game against the Cowboys. He had 74 yards rushing in that game. In a game earlier against the Bears, he had 52. In a game against the Browns earlier this year, he had 82 yards. He's run for a significant amount. That's 2, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns already in this rookie campaign. So he's doing everything you thought he would do when he left LSU. I was certainly vocal about this. When I watched Jaden Daniels, and I watched every snap he took last year, when I watched him, I thought to myself, that guy has everything you would want in an NFL quarterback except 15 extra pounds. He's tall. He's 6'4". He's an elite athlete. He's played a ton of football as a starter, 5 years. He's accurate. He's decisive. He throws the deep ball. He checks it down. He takes care of it. He produces points. Like, there was nothing outside of his weight that you could have pointed to with Jaden Daniels and tried to pick it apart. And we had the discussion. It was Jaden Daniels. It was Caleb Williams. Like, who are you going to go with there? And my thing was, it's kind of like, are you trying to get Patrick Mahomes, a guy who has insane arm talent and makes a crazy off-script plays all the time? And, like, that's what Caleb Williams has, that kind of skill set. But does that always translate, or do you really have to be Patrick Mahomes to make that work? Or would you rather take the guy that kind of has the skill set you're looking for? He plays the position like Lamar Jackson does. He plays the position not with quite the arm strength and physicality, but with the athleticism and the big playability, kind of like Josh Allen does to an extent. And I liked the guy that did more on script, but had the ability to go off script in Jaden Daniels than the guy in Caleb Williams who's just kind of out there trying to make a play. And I'm not putting dirt on Caleb Williams' NFL career. Far from it. The Bears are a mess, and that's not his fault. But Washington has been a mess for a long time, and Jaden Daniels has helped to clean a little bit of that up. Now, Philly's gotten white hot, and they're in control of that division now, but Washington's very much right there in the mix, and he's part of that. And I think that has resonated to an extent with LSU fans, but I don't think to the extent it did in Cincinnati. And I think that shined through when the Commanders and Cincinnati played back a few weeks ago on Monday Night Football, and I felt like a lot of people in LSU circles were pulling for the Bengals there. I don't think there's going to be a sizable amount at all of LSU folks in that dome on Sunday. I do not think so at all. Now, it's a very, very popular trip to come down to New Orleans in the NFL season, so there may be some Washington fans, but those will be folks from that region, not necessarily this one. And I think that's probably the way Saints fans would prefer it. The question is who the Saints are going to start at quarterback to duel Jaden Daniels. And I get the sense, and we talked about this on Monday, that that's going to be Spencer Rattler. I just feel like that's Clint Kubiak's guy. And I feel like Darren Rizzi's probably going to be in position to give that decision to Clint Kubiak. Maybe not. I don't know that. I just feel that. Usually when interim coaches come in, they loosen the reins, not tighten them, right? So you're generally not in a position as an interim coach to go, all right, I'm taking control of that. Now, when Ed Ogeron took over at LSU, he kicked Cam Cameron to the curb, said, you're done. And that was an authoritative thing that he did. But most of the stuff he did when he got to LSU as the interim coach was kind of relax things. And you heard the same thing with Darren Rizzi. They changed some of the things they did in the locker room. They changed the vibes at practice with some music. I just don't think he's going to look at Clint Kubiak and go, all right, I'm the head honcho now. This is the guy you're starting. I think Kubiak will make that call, and I think Clint Kubiak is more likely to go with the more raw, talented player that can do some more things and think that he'll put him in position to take advantage of those attributes. I think it'll be Spencer Rattler in the game coming up on Sunday. I don't have a strong preference as to who I'd like to see play. I think the likelihood is that the Saints have a couple of guys available to them that are backup quarterbacks in the NFL. I think it's unlikely that either of these two guys emerges as a true threat to be the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. I think that it's more likely that Spencer Rattler could develop into that. I just don't think it is likely that either one of them does develop into that. And Washington's got a pretty good defense. You're going to have to block up front and run the football to help out whoever it is that's playing quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Jaden Daniels can kind of do some things on his own a little bit. You don't have that skill set here with your quarterback in New Orleans. But I think it's going to be an all SEC matchup. I think you're going to take Jaden Daniels and South Carolina, Spencer Rattler, and I think those are going to be two of the guys that you see play in this game on Sunday. And quite frankly, I think that leans toward Washington. If I knew I was going to get a full throat, electrified December Superdome, I might feel differently. I don't think I'm going to get that. I think I'm going to get a Superdome that's a little bit tuned out on this whole thing, that may have some opposing fans in it, and I think the Saints are the lesser team. I think those ingredients pull the other way. We'll find out this week. I think we don't have the practice participation report to this point. We certainly don't have an injury report to this point. And maybe Derek Carr tapes it up and tries to go play. I just can't imagine that 7 days after the injury he suffered. So to me, I think we'll probably find out on Thursday who the Saints quarterback will be. I think it's going to be Spencer Rattler. Either way, it'll be Jaden Daniels. And I'm excited to watch the game. I'm excited to watch Jaden Daniels play. But it's going to, I believe, be an SEC matchup of quarterbacks coming up on Sunday inside the Dome. If you're looking for Saints coverage, you can find ours at Hunt on Saints on YouTube. Hunt on Saints on YouTube is where you can find it. That's also now being uploaded everywhere you find your podcast. So if you had been checking me out on YouTube, appreciate that very much. But it's everywhere. If you search Hunt on Saints, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. All right, let's step aside for another timeout. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more college football right here on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. Every car on the lot at Genesis of Baton Rouge is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Look, safety, pretty big deal. Everybody that buys a car thinks about that. And if you're in the market for a new vehicle and you're considering some of the safest cars on the road, strongly consider Genesis. Every single car on the line, not like the one they picked to be the safe car. Every car on the line was given the IIHA top safety picks. Some of the cars on the line were given top safety picks plus. But that baseline, every single vehicle on the Genesis line has those safety features. And they don't compromise on it. That's why it's an incredibly safe car to drive. It's an incredibly popular pick with families. Not to mention that it's really sleek and stylish, rides fantastically, looks great, and it's available right here in Baton Rouge at the only fully exclusive Genesis dealer in the state. So if you're just outside of Baton Rouge, you're thinking maybe Genesis might be for you, drive on in. Visit the store, Airline at Piku, chat with one of their brand ambassadors, get behind the wheel, and see the difference in that Genesis line of vehicles. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, so we're going to do some live radio here on the spot and see how things shake out. I found out on Twitter in the break that Will Campbell won the blocking award for the SEC.
So there's actually two winners of that award.
Okay.
And I think the other one is a defender.
Oh, on defense?
Or maybe it's an offense. Maybe it's offense, actually.
Is it Kelvin Banks?
It is.
Okay, that's good. All right, that's the point of this exercise. So I realized that they had listed out all the awards. So I'm going to try to see how many of these I can get correctly. You've given me the awards. I got to get the players here.
Yep.
So let's see what we can do. Offensive Player of the Year. Do you have that available to you?
I do.
I don't think any of the quarterbacks earned that. I don't think Jackson Dart earned that, especially the way that things ended in Florida. It's almost always a quarterback, and I don't think so. And Dylan Sampson led the league in rushing. I'm going to go with Dylan Sampson for Offensive Player of the Year.
That's correct.
Oh, we like to hear that. Boom, that's number one. All right, Defensive Player of the Year. That's tougher. I often think in those terms. I know that Whit Weeks was third in the league in tackles, and I think the two guys in front of him played for like Mississippi State or Oklahoma. And that just doesn't scream Player of the Year to me. So I'm going to transition.
Danny Stutzman was pretty well regarded.
He was good. So I'm going to go pass rush there. James Pierce is going to be the first pick, but I don't think his numbers were that good. Kyle Kennard had a ton of sacks. I'm going to go Kyle Kennard, Defensive Player of the Year.
Wow.
Oh, my God. This guy is on fire. We like that. I look at a lot of stats. Can you tell?
Yeah.
Okay, we have Freshman of the Year.
Yep.
And there's a Newcomer of the Year, you told me.
Yes, there is.
And those are going to be different, I believe.
They
Newcomer
are?
of the Year feels pretty easy to me. That's got to be Diego Pavia. Oh my God, this guy
that was
is
easy.
unbelievable.
That was an easy one.
That was an easy one. But I thought about a few others. I didn't know. I was assuming none of the Texas guys counted, even though they were newcomers to the league. Okay, so we got Freshman of the Year.
This one I think is.
There are two that are just jumping to my mind.
Yeah.
And are they co-winners?
No.
Okay. I'll tell you that Lenora Sellers is a redshirt freshman. I thought he played great, and Ryan Williams is the highlight reel guy. I think I'm going to go with Lenora Sellers, Freshman of the Year. Oh, yes! That's incredible work by me. What else do we have? Special teams?
No, yeah, I mean you're not going to
Is it a kicker for somebody?
Yeah, it's Kentucky's kicker.
You probably got a lot of work in.
Yeah, and then they have a Scholar Athlete of the Year.
Vanderbilt's left tackle.
No, Brady Cook actually from Missouri.
Oh, Missouri. Okay,
Yep.
that's very.
And,
he must be journalism major. They're real proud of their journalism school there at Missouri.
Unfortunately, I already told you Coach of the Year, but I think you probably would have went.
It would have been Clark Lee and Shane Beamer, and I think I would have gone Shane Beamer on that.
But it was actually Clark Lee.
Clark Lee, but that's. I mean, I'm pretty proud of that effort. I got to tell you.
Yeah, not bad.
I mean, Ryan Williams was really good, but Sellers just his last month was just incredible to watch. So, Defensive Player of the Year, Kyle Kennard. Offensive Player of the Year, Dylan Sampson. Blocking, Will Campbell, and then Kelvin Banks, who you said. That's whenever you get to work on Monday, and one of the first things you do is just look at all the stats for like 45 minutes, try to see what you're going to talk about and what you might write about. Plus, you're editing all of Chris Marlar's stuff for LouisianaSports.net that is all SEC related. I was more immersed into the entirety of the SEC this fall than I've really ever been. So
Kennard as well. Kyle Kennard also won the Bronco Nagurski trophy, which I didn't know had already been awarding. Apparently, they're already awarding some trophies. He won that one. So,
he's going to be a
really good player in the NFL, I think.
And so let me see. So Sampson was a high school signee. Campbell was a high school signee. Sellers was a high school signee. Ryan Williams was a high school signee. Kennard was a transfer from Georgia Tech. Pavia was a transfer, certainly. But
Kelvin Banks, I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that either. My gut would be he probably went to Texas out of high school, but I don't know that one for sure. And that's part of the interesting deal. You think about guys like Kyle Kennard, and they're all over the place. You think about some of the most impactful SEC defenders this year, and we talked about that on yesterday's show, how many of them are transfers. And then you realize that like what goes on over the next 2 weeks is just so incredibly vital to everyone who's trying to win a championship. And this is kind of the same segment I did yesterday, but I'm in the same frame of mind, so it bears repeating. And maybe some of you were listening at this time yesterday and you're getting the exact same segment, but I want to reinforce, like, I've been trained over the last 20 years probably to look at the future of LSU's football program based on the current depth chart. That's just a waste of time. It's just a waste of time because as we talked about yesterday, the entire 2022 class is just about gone. And you're now attempting to add really the best players on your team to this 2025 team from the transfer portal. Yes, you're going to lean on Garrett Nussmeier. Yes, you're going to lean on Caden Durham. Yes, you're going to lean on Whit Weeks. Yes, you're going to lean on Ashton Stamps and perhaps Emory Jones. And these are some of the guys that you're going to have step up. Xavier Thomas and Chris Hilton and Aaron Anderson. Yes. But you're going to add, my guess is, your best sack guy in the portal. You're probably going to add your number one receiver in the portal. You're probably going to add your number one corner in the portal. You're going to add your starting tight end in the portal. Like, these are key pieces to what you're trying to do in 2025, and you have no idea who those guys are going to be today. And that is a foreign concept to what we dealt with 10 years ago. And honestly, it's foreign to what we told you in August Brian Kelly was going to do. But something changed over the course of these 4 months. Whether it was the guys he saw on Ole Miss's roster, whether it was the guys that were leaving his roster, whether it was the lack of production from the second-year class, which is redshirt freshmen and true sophomores, maybe it was a combination of all that. But something over the course of those 4 months altered Brian Kelly's thinking about how to build a roster. And we're going to see how well LSU can do this over the next 3 weeks. Because if you heard Brian Kelly earlier today, and I doubt most of you heard this because this was an hour and 40 minutes ago, he was at 3 different Baton Rouge restaurants last night. They are wining and dining prospective transfers, wining and dining players that are on this team they're trying to keep on this team. Like, he is far more focused on handling roster management for 2025 than he is Baylor. And that's the proper way to go about this. That's just where we are with bowl games. But it's been a fascinating shift to pay attention to with Brian Kelly, who I think as of August still thought, okay, I can do this the old way. I can build relationships with players. I can hire great coaches. I can use the resources at LSU's disposal to put together great teams. And if I need a cornerback, I can go get one. If I need a running back, I can go get one. If I need a defensive end, I can go get one. But this is how we can do it. And maybe it was Bryce Underwood. Maybe it was a year-long commitment that went away based on $10 million that made him go, oh, this isn't tenable. We now have to compete with that. And maybe it was all the stuff that I'm talking about that just all combined into one. But I don't think you can at this point deny the shift. And I'm excited over the next 10 days to see who they can get into the boat. I think you'll start learning about this as the hours tick off the clock starting now. First domino's got to fall for LSU, honestly, is Garrett Nussmeier. Got to make sure that he's in the boat. Then you can plan your spending accordingly. If you've got to go get a quarterback, then you're going to have to plan your spending accordingly, which is shifted heavily toward the quarterback. But we'll find out. It's kind of like it's kind of more like free agency in the NFL than it is the old National Signing Day where 25 guys ran in at once. Just news trickling out day over day. And if you don't get this guy, then you got to go after this guy. If you don't get this guy, you got to go after that guy. If they got this guy, then you need to get that guy. Just a different world that we all knew was coming, we all felt was coming, but as I sit here and cover it, it does feel a lot different than I thought it would back in August. So that's a look at awards and portal talk here with some LSU football. If you're looking for LSU football content, you can find it each and every day at Hunt on LSU. Cassie, Jesse, and the whole video team do an awesome job of getting those videos uploaded. Just 10, 12 digestible minute segments that are right there at your the tip of your fingers at Hunt on LSU. And as I mentioned in the previous segment, if you're looking for those and don't want to go to YouTube, you just like to go to your podcast app, Hunt on LSU, very much available in podcast form as well. So go ahead and check all of that out. We'll step aside, take a time out, come back, close things up. Wednesday edition, Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LeBears Baton Rouge got to make it game day headquarters this winter season. You can watch all the games on their giant screen TVs. I tell you every day how awesome the viewing experience is inside of ESPN Bet. They got huge screens. They can break them up into multiple games. The sportsbook's right behind you. You can sit with a group at a big table. You can sit individually at these tables these chairs that are super comfortable. They're a little ledge comes out. You can rest your drink and your food on. They got a great wait staff, awesome drink specials, and food as well. You got to get on by and check it out. Do it this weekend with all your friends. Get in all the football and basketball action this winter with Penn Play and ESPN Bet. Penn's online sportsbook is now live in Louisiana, so download that ESPN Bet app. You can score big this season at LeBear's Baton Rouge. However you want to play. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 for help.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show. Hopefully Hunt remembered to bring his laptop charger. Nah, there's no chance.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge and Citizens Bank and Trust are bringing you the ultimate holiday gift with our Home for the Holidays sweepstakes. Imagine 2025 with your rent or mortgage covered up to $18,000. We're here to make your holidays a whole lot brighter. Just sign up at 1045ESPN.com and you could be living stress-free next year. The winner will be notified on December 20th. That is next Friday.
All right, wrapping things up here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Absent at Saints practice today, Derek Carr, which is not surprising. I just can't imagine that he's going to play in the game coming up on Sunday. I think it'll be Haener or Rattler. And then Alvin Kamara not at practice today either. Not sure what the extent of his situation is. Maybe a veteran day off. Maybe nursing something at this point. But those two absent from Saints practice today as they begin preparation for Washington. The full injury report will be available here in a couple of hours, and certainly Matt will have more on that coming up on after further review. Appreciate all the guests that we've had on today for jumping aboard. Had Matthew Brune talking hoops at the top of the hour, and J.D. Piquel talking football back at 1:15. Appreciate those guys for being part of the show today. A lot of busy action in the Major League Baseball winter meetings that I'm excited to dive into after we get off the air, because I know you don't give a rip about much of that. We may get into some of it here, though, because Beck, we got to do one more thing here on this Wednesday, and that is, of course, take it or leave it.
All righty, first one here. NCAA President Charlie Baker says progress is being made around expanding the NCAA basketball tournament to 72 or 76 teams. He doesn't expect it to move past 76. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it. I just we're talking about a situation here where we're putting a bunch of below 500 power teams in that just don't need to be in. I'm not suggesting I won't watch the games, and that's why they're doing it, because every single freaking thing we do revolves around so much money, and I get it, and I'll be damned if, like, at times it doesn't just frustrate me that we can't just go back to things that made a lot of sense because we feel like somebody's not making the right amount of money for it. So that's the issue here. They'll make more money because there'll be more games, and I'm sure people like me will absolutely watch them. But it is watering down the field a little bit when you add that many teams. So we're talking about right now where we're at 68. You're adding 8 more teams to the field. Like, you're adding 8 more teams that were 2 games under 500 in the ACC, or 8 more teams that were, won the Southland and didn't win the tournament. Like, I don't need that. I don't need that. I think it waters down the tournament, but they're going to do it because there's more money involved. And by now, we know when more money comes knocking, the door gets opened wide.
All right, next one here. We talked about a little bit in the last segment, or 2 segments ago, about SEC, but Vanderbilt coach Clark Lee wins the SEC Coach of the Year. Lee led the Doors to a 6-6 record with a win over Alabama after going 2-10 last year. Lee over Beamer, take it or leave it.
That's direct. I would take it. I think Shane Beamer did an awesome job. I think he had a better football team than Vanderbilt. That obviously showed itself. But you consider where South Carolina has been. I mean, where Vanderbilt has been, 6-6 is a hell of a run. You consider where South Carolina's been, 9-3 is just maybe one bump up. And so I would probably go with Clark Lee there, but if they would have given that award to Shane Beamer, I wouldn't have blinked.
All right, next one here. The Boston Red Sox have acquired left-handed pitcher Garrett Crochet from the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox are getting 4 highly prized prospects in return in the deal. Chicago Cubs continue to do nothing. Take it or leave it.
Well, you take that. They're not doing much of anything. But the White Sox are just a disaster. Like, they got a great young pitcher that they could potentially build around, and instead they just ship him off and hope that the 20-year-olds they got back in turn are good. There's some SEC flavor to this deal. Garrett Crochet was Tennessee's ace right when Tony Vitello got to Knoxville, so they hadn't kind of reached their pinnacle yet. But he was their Friday night guy, and one of the guys that's going back from the Red Sox to the White Sox in this deal is Braden Montgomery, of course, who was a superstar at Texas A&M this past year before he broke his leg in the Super? Or was that the regional?
I don't know.
No, it was in the regional. He broke his leg in the regional. In the Super, Caden Kent came in and hit a walk-off home run and was a star there. So, yeah, a couple of SEC products that are on the move there. Crochet headed up to Boston to do something, and the Cubs just doing a lot of nothing at this point. Super awesome.
All right, last one here. Ohio Representative Josh Williams is petitioning the state of Ohio to make planting an opposition team's flag at midfield of the Horseshoe a felony. Take it or leave it.
Okay, we got to talk about this. I'm going to leave it. First,
Leave it alone.
That's not a felony. It's a kid doing something dumb. But, like, when the representative from the state of Ohio brings this to the floor, do you believe that he is doing so because he is bettering society and his constituents?
Oh, of course, Hunt.
No, I'm not done. Or do you believe he's just doing it because his job depends on people to vote for him, and no one's probably ever heard of him? This will get him some notoriety, and he'll be elected at a later time, even though he knows it's really stupid. It's one of the two. Do you think he thinks it's doing the right thing and bettering society, or do you think he's just doing it to get votes? It's got to be one.
Yeah, I don't see how this isn't just a move for publicity's sake.
It just makes me mad because I don't know anything about government. I don't know how any of the processes work. I don't know how bills get signed into a law. I don't know how they get to the floor. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. But I feel like there's probably some more constructive things that could get passed in a situation like that than, hey, Michigan took a flag and fake planted it on an AstroTurf field, and so everybody started pushing and shoving after that happened. So I need to intervene legally from my important position here. Like, that is so weird to me that people think that way. Like, you got elected. Go solve some problems.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
I don't.
One more here. Will Campbell, obviously not going to be playing in the Texas Bowl.
No.
But he will be on the sideline, apparently, for the game. Will Campbell on the sideline, but not playing. Take it or leave it?
I'll take it, sure.
I'll take it.
I know that there have been some guys that haven't traveled with the team. There have been some guys that have traveled with the team in the past. We will get, in the next 48 hours, a real sense for who's going to play in that game for LSU. I know I've alluded to the fact that I didn't think that Will Campbell and Mason Taylor and Braden Swinson and a lot of those guys would play. We'll see what Zy Alexander decides to do. We'll see what Chris Hilton decides to do. We'll see what Sage Ryan decides to do. Emory Jones certainly has the decision to make. Garrett Dellinger has a decision to either play or not. He's going to be medically cleared to play. It's whether he wants to play or not. That's all up in the air. And I feel like we're going to get some clarity on all that in the next 48 hours. That was kind of the open to my show today, and I think that's kind of where we are in this process. I have no idea what's going on at Baylor. No idea whether or not they've got their full complement of players or they're down 12 scholarship guys. I couldn't tell you. But I do think that since the finals are going on this week, and I know that a lot of the athletes front load those so they can get out of there or get to practice. I know the basketball guys and the football guys try to front load those in the front of the week. So they'll start practice tomorrow, and I just feel like you're going to know who's going to be on the team for that. But that's just a guess from the outside. Speaking of guesses from the outside, I told you what I thought Garrett Nussmeier would do at the top of the show today. You'll catch that on YouTube currently at Hunt on LSU if you're curious. Again, thanks to JD Piquel for jumping aboard. It was a What If Wednesday. We talked about Christmas shopping for the ladies in our lives. It's very difficult. I gave my thoughts on that at 1:30. Stephen Milan going to be the shortstop at LSU. He kind of hinted at that on AFR yesterday, and I followed through with that at 1:45 today. Matthew Brune talking hoops, little Saints talk as well. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. All right, Matt Moscona is going to drive you home on After Further Review today. It's a pretty one in the capital city. Have a great Wednesday evening. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place, for a Thursday edition of The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. If you are building a home in 2025 and you're starting that process, listen up. It becomes a lot easier if in that process you contact your audio and video team, because Mitchell Fisher and his team are happy on a new construction build to go in there and do the wiring to begin with, so that you don't have to do it after everything's set up and you start drilling all those holes at that point. It makes things a lot easier, and it's something that they do all the time. So if you're concerned about your television system, your home entertainment system, your burglar alarms, all of those things in a new build coming up in 2025, Audio Video Security Solutions needs to be the first call on your list. Of course, you can check them out online at avssla.com. It's Audio Video Security Solutions online at avssla.com.